To kill or not to kill? That is the question we must ask ourselves when deciding the fate of humanity and our relationship with robots. How do we decide how to program morality into AI? Let's take a moment and talk about it. Hello, 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 and welcome back to Moment of Zen, a podcast about everything and nothing. I am your host, as always, Jonathan Zen. And before we begin, again, I want to thank you all so much for your support. And if you're enjoying this, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe for more. This is sort of a part two or a continuation of our discussion of robots and AI. If you haven't listened to the past episode, I highly recommend you check that out before listening to this episode. But in case you haven't, don't worry. Since each episode is independent from one another, you can listen to any of these out of order and it's completely fine. And if you are one of those people that have been skipping episodes, or if this is your very first episode, I have my brother joining me to discuss robots and AI. So let's jump straight into that, shall we? We are rolling. Can you say something?
Yeah, how's it going, everyone? I am the brother. I also go.
uh,
I also go by San.
One of the things we kind of talked about earlier, or depending on when you're listening to this, last week, is how society will treat robots. And we had a discussion about the sort of rights that robots should have. Now I'll kind of want to shift that focus onto the sort of my job, like the engineers or the creators and manufacturers of those robots. That will be sort of making and programming the AI that goes into the robots. It's really easy to think of robots and AI as kind of really smart calculators, but when we create something that is essentially supposed to mimic humans, we are basically playing God.
Hmm.
And one of the things religion provides humans is a sort of moral compass. It defines for humans what is right from wrong. So, as gods to robots, it'll be our responsibility to define the moral compass of AI. Sounds pretty easy, right?
Okay.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that. To me, like as an engineer, I don't think that's really easy. Maybe to someone that's not an engineer, it may sound really easy. But in order to really be able to code or program morality into AI, we kind of first need to examine our own morality and ethics and what we would do in certain situations. So, in psychology, a lot of psychologists like to do what are known as thought experiments. And one of the most famous thought experiments for morality and ethics is often called the trolley or train problem. Are you familiar with that? The trolley
Uh,
or train problem?
no, not
All
even the
right.
slightest.
So, since you're the guest today, I kind of want to discuss the trolley and train problem with you. Kind of gauge like where you are in terms of how you would act in certain situations.
Okay.
And for all of you listening at home, feel free to participate along as we explore this thought experiment. So, are you ready?
Yeah. All right, go for it.
So, there are a lot of variations to the trolley thought experiment, but the basic idea of it is this. So imagine you're standing on an overpass,
Okay.
and below you
Overpass.
is a train track. And on that train track, you see five people. They're tied up on the tracks and they can't escape.
Okay.
And down the track, there is a speeding train coming right at them. But you notice that on the track, it splits right before the five people onto another track. You know what I'm talking about? It's kind of like
Yeah,
that
it's like
that
it's like
fork.
a fork. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's call that track B. So track A is where the five people are,
People are
and
okay.
track B there's one person tied up. And since you're on the overpass, you're essentially witnessing everything. But on that overpass as well, there is a switch that will divert the path of the train from track A to track B where only one person is. So right now it's on track A where five people are, and but you can press that switch to switch it to track B where only one person is. So the question is, do you press that switch?
I'll probably press. Yeah, I'll press the switch. Um, five. If I know math, five is better than one.
So what's your reasoning behind pressing that switch?
There's five lives versus that one life, and if I don't do anything, five people die.
So you're essentially
I,
saying,
I'm trying to mitigate the death. Like it's for certain someone's gonna die,
uh huh,
or some people might die.
uh huh,
But if I had the option of mitigating or lessening
the
the
amount of
damage,
lives
yeah, damage,
lost. Uh
then
huh.
then then yeah, I'll press the switch so at least one person dies. I know that person may or may not be like. It really depends, actually. Let's say, for example,
No,
if
no. Let's say they're complete strangers. They're all complete strangers.
complete strangers and they have, it's not like an Elon Musk in there or anything like that. It's like just
No, they're,
random
they're all complete strangers.
okay. Then yeah, I'll press the switch. One person dies,
Mhm.
five lives.
So in your case, I guess you value the number of lives saved. Is that correct?
Yes, assuming that I have no relation to
Yeah, yeah.
any of the strangers on the track.
Okay. A sort of kind of equivalent real life scenario is if we assume the train is a self driving train, it's sort of the same situation. You have five people on the track and it could divert one way or another. So let's say you're the engineer. So would you be comfortable in programming it so that the camera or sensor on the train would divert the track from A to B? Would you be comfortable doing that?
Yeah, I'll be comfortable, but at the same time, if I was an engineer, I'll probably program to stop. But for the sake of the question, yes.
Yeah, for the sake of scenario, it's like
Yeah,
you can't stop. You can't stop.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. No, no, I got that. It's definitely it's a tough decision. If I was programming, it's like I'm already anticipating something like that's gonna happen.
Well, as an engineer, that's something you have to
Yeah,
think of because
right.
it's a very real life possibility.
Then yeah, I would definitely most likely program quantity. Yeah, it would definitely be quantity.
If you're the engineer, you would value the number of lives saved.
As an engineer, assuming that that I'm not accounting for like facial recognition. I'm just accounting for just like they're nobodies.
Or
Like
strangers,
just
strangers.
complete strangers. Like
Uh-huh.
if we're talking, if you throw in like facial recognition and stuff like that, then that's a completely different.
I'll
I
get to
got
that later.
okay. I got it.
No,
Okay.
no, for now,
Complete
strictly they're
strangers.
strangers. Like you don't know anything about them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll go straight for numbers. Like
Yes, so you would prioritize saving the most amount of people possible.
yes.
Okay, so let's go to scenario two. Now let's assume it's the exact same conditions as before, but this time, you're on the track, but you can see the people, like you can identify who they are, but they're still strangers to you. So let's say the five people on track A are all old people, like they're in their 80s and 90s,
Right.
and basically you can kind of guess like they've lived like a full life.
Right.
And on track B, you see a baby. Does knowing this fact change your mind from pushing that switch essentially? Like would you still divert the train to kill the baby?
Ooh, this finally that's a question I can.
So are you a baby killer?
The question is, am I an elderly killer? Okay. Okay. So if I'm understanding this question correctly, we're talking about five grandmas and grandpas
Yeah, so it's just five
versus
five old people on track A. No,
versus.
yeah, it's the same scenario
That's not
except
right.
except
It's a
they're
baby.
five old
Right.
people and like a baby on the other side.
Are the older people communicating with me, or do they have their mouths shut as well?
No, they're all tied up. They can't
Okay,
move.
got it.
You know,
Got it.
they just can't move from that situation.
Kill the elderly. They live their lives. If anything, depending like yeah, I'm gonna assume that these grandmas and grandpas would want me to sacrifice them to save the baby as well.
So before you were valuing
Uh-huh.
the quantity of life, and
Right.
now you're essentially valuing the quality of life, because the quality of life of an 80-year-old, 90-year-old isn't intrinsically as valuable as the potential
The
of a
baby.
baby.
Exactly.
Okay.
The first example that you gave, I was assuming on grounds that all six of these strangers were relatively around the same age, middle aged, all complete strangers to me. That's how, and because of that, it came down to the quantity instead of the quality.
Okay.
In this scenario that you're giving me, it's definitely quality over quantity.
Okay. So put your engineer hat back on. So now you're the engineer. How would you program your code differently this time? Like
Facial
would you still put in the same code as before to save as much people as possible?
the code would that code will still be in there, but it'll be a little bit tweaked,
Mm-hmm.
with the addition of like facial recognition, and I don't know how advanced my my coding skills are, but I don't know what the scenario is, but I would definitely have facial recognition, account for like the age, occupation if possible, contribution to society, how much are they
Or
worth in a way.
so now you are essentially putting a value on that person's life. The facial recognition With the
Recognition.
facial recognition, you're essentially saying this person has a certain value to their life.
Yes, if I'm looking at it from a programmer's point of view, yes.
Then
However,
how would you judge what considers valuable in someone's life?
like I said, it depends on how advanced the facial recognition is. If the facial recognition were to recognize like a Mark Zuckerberg, for example, and see how much he contributes to society and how much potential he can continue or contribute to society.
But to me, that's all subjective, though.
Right, it is all subjective, but in terms of I guess calculating it from like the train's perspective, the program's perspective, that's how I'm gonna quantify it. That's how I'm gonna, I guess, evaluate it. Um,
So let's say
it's going back to this I guess this topic in general. It's very hard to I guess program and code morality and ethics into this.
I mean
Right, right.
that's an entire topic for
Right.
today.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like it's it's hard. That's like the only solution that I can think of at this time to even
So
program the train.
so you as a programmer engineer, you would sort of put a sort of intrinsic value onto people based on the quality of life that they have, or like the potential of life that they have. Would you say that?
Not the quality of life. I'm not trying to say like, oh, because this person, lives in a one-story house versus this other person living in a two-story house or whatever. It's a program. It comes in like yes and no's. So I'm gonna have to, I guess, yeah, I guess it'll have to calculate, I guess, how much or how many felonies and I guess it looks through their background. They look through the criminal records. They just that's one way evaluating their worth
Okay.
essentially, and you kind of add them up, whether or not their life is worth it versus the other side. You got to give value. It
Okay.
sounds it's
That's like to me that's a very kind of slippery slope,
yeah it's
because now you're essentially letting AI determine a person's worth. You know what I'm saying?
right. I mean
So let's say you have like two kind of Joe schmoes with they're essentially like the same person, like they make the same amount of money, they have clean records. They don't do anything, except maybe one person has makes like $5 less than the other person. I mean, like based on the algorithm, you would choose the person that makes $5 more because he would be technically more valuable than the other person.
I mean, if you're gonna put it like that, then
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, there's so many things that to consider when
when programming, right?
when considering like someone's value in life, and I think it's a very kind of slippery slope to sort of code and put value to someone's life and make that a sort of deciding factor on whether or not the AI chooses to flip the switch or not.
Right. No, I completely agree. Like even like there's still the potential where where the $5 where the person that's making $5 less, he still has the potential to maybe invent something that the other person won't be able to. No, yeah, I completely get that. But as from a programmer's point of view, it's there's a so yeah, I would imagine there's a lot of variables to account for.
I guess I'm kind of putting you in a predicament because I know you're not an engineer, and I'm kind of coming from this from like an engineer's perspective. With programming, you can have these kind of to kind of put them simply, like conditional or like switch statements, which means like, oh, if the value of this person's life is greater than 50 or whatever, then you would say don't kill him or whatever.
Right. I would
So
imagine.
that's something that needs to get programmed into the AI.
Right. There's gonna be there's gonna be I guess a lot of those.
So you would put that code in.
It's either the programmer specifically he puts those statements into the code to I guess to figure out the quality
Uh-huh.
of track A and or track B, or we just go with quality. I mean, quantity to make things easier.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. Like, so you would put you would put both in, or would you kind of consider both the quantity and quality?
Okay, okay. Going back to your early example, if it's the only factors in the coding would be their age, and I think that's it. Anything else, I don't think the engineer should have a say in it. I say the age and the and the number of people. To answer your question, I don't think the engineer has the right to decide who lives and who dies.
So if you're programming the AI, you would only consider quantity and age of the people in the track.
Yes, and some other very basic and simple variables.
Okay. So let's go on to scenario three. Um, this time, let's just say that there's only one track, and on that track, there's still five people, and you're still on that overpass. But on the overpass with you, there's a very large man. And if you push this very large man off the overpass in front of the train, he'll be able to stop the train before it kills five people. So, question is, will you push
That's
him
a
off?
big man. That's
Would
a
you put
big
it?
man.
Would you push him off? Just for the scenario.
Oh
I know it's
man,
not realistic, but
man,
just for the scenario.
I must be strong too. Oh shoot. Okay. If I'm understanding this correctly, a train is coming. There's still five victims tied up on the track, and there's
Yeah.
just one massive ass dude in front of me, and all I have to do,
And no,
and the options,
for you to save the five people down the track, you have to push them off.
and this, I'm not an engineer anymore. I'm myself.
No. So just for the scenario, you're just you.
Right. It's just me.
Yeah.
I'm entitled to my own opinion. My ethics and morality is exclusive to me. So
So would you push them off?
Uh, do I know this person? He's a complete stranger,
Everyone's complete strangers.
nah? Then no. I mean, he's
No.
right next to me. No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. I don't know the five people. In fact, I know this is kind of out of this scenario, but if he's that big, I probably won't be able to see anything past him. but
No, no, that's not part of the scenario.
I know, but I'm just saying, like let's say I know that there's five people down there, but I can see this giant person in front of me. I've kind of built a emotion, not emotional, but at least some sort of, um, I know of his existence in a way. He's closer to me than them, and um, I wouldn't push him off, assuming that I don't know the ages of the people down there.
No, so this is kind of like similar to the first scenario where you don't know
Anything,
anything
right?
about anyone.
Okay.
You,
Then yeah,
all you
no.
know is the number of people,
Then
and
no,
that no.
no.
Okay, so why?
Why? Um,
Because in the first scenario you said you would sacrifice one person to save five people, but in this case you wouldn't sacrifice this one person to save those five people.
right. The difference is that the first scenario, uh, the victims on the tracks, we I never established like a personal connection with
Hmm.
either of them. Um, so it's like I'm not inclined to do one thing or another.
Hmm.
It's just quantity at that time at that point. Whereas if this massive dude is in front of me, um, we make eye contact maybe, but he's definitely in body distance, in arm distance. If I have the option to push him down, so
Hmm.
I'm assuming that since we're that close, we'll be face to face. Um,
No, no, you're not face to face. Let's say like he's facing some other way, and he
he's
never sees you. He never
okay.
sees you.
He's looking at the track then. Okay.
Yeah, he never sees you.
Um, it's still a no.
Hmm.
Um, because one, obviously, that'll be me actually doing the murdering at this point.
Hmm.
Yeah, even if it's to save five people, once I guess I'm physically included, once I am included in that, I guess touching the other human being, I
Hmm.
consider me being a like the murderer. Basically, I murdered him.
Hmm.
If it was, let's say, another switch, if I had to like click a button or something, and then this button,
There's a trap door,
yeah, it's
and
like
you
a
push
trap
that
door, and I push
button.
that button. Yeah, I'll probably press it to save them. It's just personally, if I am in any way, I guess, physically, touching the victim, it's I guess it's something. Yeah, again, everyone's different. This is
Uh-huh.
just me personally. Um, yeah, if I'm like if what's the word? Yeah, if I physically engage and touch them and something like that, it's I'm involved, and
Uh-huh.
that's something I don't want to be a part of. I know
Okay.
that by pressing a button, I'm still physically involved, but I'm just it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, First off, I want to say congratulations. You're not a psychopath. Because I believe there's like a study um, conducted, and the majority of people who said that they would push that person off, most of them are considered as psychopaths because psychopaths don't have that emotional empathy for actually, they don't care about other people essentially. So they would just do it.
Okay.
So you passed the psychopath test. You're not a psychopath.
I mean, damn it! Oh damn! I failed. I basically failed.
So what if that person was Adolf Hitler?
Woo. I mean, is- I mean, I'm Asian.
So
um,
what does that have to do with anything?
uh, but no, no, I still want to touch it. Like I said, like if I'm physically touching them, it's personal of mine. But I just I won't be able to sleep at night.
Okay. Um, kind of jokes aside, if we take this scenario sort of into like the real life, let's say, like a train is crossing a bridge and part of the bridge collapses, and the only way to save the train and the most amount of passengers possible is for the train to release the last car on the train. So to detach the last car on the train, so that the most
Right.
amount of people can be saved. So in this scenario, you as the
And
engineer
conductor.
would no, you as
Oh.
the engineer programming the AI in the train, would you program that in to sort of save the most amount of lives possible? So in this scenario, you are sort of, again, you're actively killing, or you're actively choosing to kill people, rather than in the first scenario where you are sort of indirectly killing people.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, a train with full passengers is about to, I guess,
Crossing a
crash into
bridge,
oblivion. Yeah, right. It's
crossing
basically
a
on
bridge, the
plummet.
bridge collapses, and the only way to save like the most
Some
amount of
people, right?
passengers is to release the last cart. So you as the engineer, would you program something in so that it would do that? It would release the last cart in
Oh,
order
so
to
so
save.
so you say last cart and last you say last cart and then you say like there's a lot of people in there. So let's just let's establish the train. So let's say the train. There's the head of the train, front of the train,
Yeah,
middle train, and then the back of the train, which is the
yeah,
last train.
yeah.
So the front of the train is just the conductor and the
No, no, no,
systems.
no conductor. This is all
Oh, right,
AI.
AI. Okay,
Yeah,
and then the middle of the train is people as well.
yeah. There's people in everywhere,
And
and
so
so the
so
bridge collapses.
right. So the front of the train and the middle of the train are gonna fall into oblivion, and the question is whether or not to save the last cart.
Yeah, like if you release the last cart, you'll have enough. You'll be able to make it past the collapsing bridge.
Okay. If I don't do anything, everyone dies. I mean, programming wise.
Yes.
Yeah. Then yeah, I'll program a. I guess yeah, I'll program a script or I don't know what you call it. Um, to in the event that that a bridge collapses and it is falling to its oblivion. Um, release the back of the train. Yeah. I'll do it. Yeah.
I guess from my perspective, you don't really program for this, because this is a really specific scenario. Like you wouldn't program for a specific scenario
Yeah,
of
it's 100%.
if there's a collapsing bridge, you would do that. You would do it kind of in general. So in general, whatever the situation may be, would you program it so that you let the AI assess the situation to determine that it should or it
Uh,
can like release like a cart or whatever, in order to save the most amount of lives that it thinks it can save? Like, would you do that? Would you be comfortable doing that?
I think at this point, I would say yes. If I have absolutely no control and it's almost guaranteed that everyone's gonna die, then yes, I would hand it over to an AI. At least
Or not necessarily that everyone's gonna die. It's just
is
prioritizing like the most amount of lives saved.
right,
But
right. But I'm saying that let's say if something were to happen, like another train collides with it or something like that. If like an event like that were to happen, I'll have no control over preventing it. No one really does at that point. So I'd rather at least give the AI a chance to assess the situation, and then at least it has a chance to mitigate and maybe potentially save some lives. But at the same time, I feel like a follow up question might be, what if it's not dangerous, but it just deemed it is dangerous, and then it ended up just killing people. Whereas if it didn't do anything, it could have just saved everyone. I feel like that's another
I
follow up
mean, like
question.
that's up to you to decide as the engineer.
Right.
That's something like you would have to think about. Like, can you trust the AI to make that assessment? Like, are you comfortable um, trusting the AI to that its calculations are correct in that um, what its actions are for the best interest of the people?
Um, well, it depends how confident the engineer is, or how confident I guess I am.
Exactly. And that's why I'm asking you. Like, would you be comfortable doing that?
Right, assuming okay, so assuming that let's say I'm like a divine engineer, like a really good engineer with a great team behind my back, and we calculate and we're convinced and we're set in stone. We did the best of our ability to program the best AI possible, and
Hmm.
with no regrets whatsoever. Then yes, we,
Then
we
you would be
would
comfortable doing
we
that.
would we would as a team be comfortable in letting it assess the situation, even if um, it it kills people when it didn't have to, or for example, um, it assesses a situation that it thinks it's gonna kill off all its passengers, but it kind of overassessed it, and if it hadn't assessed it, it would have just saved everyone. But since it assessed the situation, it ended up killing some people. No regret still because we completely trusted the AI system, and that was it. Yeah.
So I guess another example of this is let's assume you have a personal robot in your house,
Okay.
and sorry,
Okay. Okay. I'm
okay,
just agreeing with you.
yeah. So a intruder comes in. The intruder is armed with a gun and is threatening your family inside the house. And let's say like you're in your living room or your bedroom or whatever,
Mhm.
and like the intruder is kind of like has you and your family at gunpoint, and
Do I know this
your
intruder?
robot.
Do I know
Huh?
this intruder? Is this intruder like my neighbor or a
That
complete
doesn't matter.
stranger? Okay. All
Like
right.
it's just some intruder. Like
Okay.
let's say this intruder has you and your family at gunpoint,
Okay.
and across the room, your personal robot just happens to show up, and let's say like a drawer or something, and inside that drawer is a gun. Like,
Okay.
do you think your robot should be able to pick up that gun and kill the intruder?
I think the I think no. My personal robot should not be able to pick up a gun. It's not it. It shouldn't be in its program. Assuming this robot is highly intelligent, it's humanoid. It's the same robot. It's like a cleaning robot, and it's the same robot that we discussed in the last video.
Hmm.
Then I think it's more than capable of figuring out and assessing the situation that its family is in danger, without needing to pick up a gun, and killing the person. It largely depends on the AI and where I bought it from, I guess. But my AI would not be able to pick up a gun, um, but it is programmed to protect its family members. So I
Right.
guess I guess it would not, to answer your question, it would not pick up the gun, but it will distract, hopefully, the intruder.
For the sake of this scenario, that the only way for you and your family to live is if your robot picks up that gun and shoots the intruder. Should that robot be able to make that decision?
Doesn't need
No,
to pick up a gun. He just goes up and just tackle him.
no. I'm just saying
Like
for
just for
this
the sake of this
scenario.
scenario,
Yeah,
then yeah, I would.
because we are talking about like the ethics and morality of robots,
Right.
and
Yeah,
a situation like this may or may not come up. And you know, this could be a real life situation, which is why I'm talking about
I
it.
would say yes, not
Now,
robot.
now you're saying yes.
I'm saying yes because of the sake of this sake of this topic.
No.
I
Really, really try to think about it in like a real life scenario
no,
because
no, no.
something like this could happen.
But I'm saying that if I were to have one, it would not even be programmed to even have that function.
So you're saying that it should not
No, no, no. I'm saying
be.
no, no. I'm saying it won't. It wouldn't be programmed to pick up a gun, but it will. It is programmed to kill someone without without the gun involvement. Because I'm thinking about this in like, I guess in real life, uh, like I'll only have a robot that does not or is not programmed
Uh,
with the ability to hold a gun.
you're deflecting from the
Right,
question.
right, right,
You're being such a
but
politician right now.
right, right. But I'm just all right. So to answer your question, just for the sake of just for the sake of this topic, though, this scenario,
Uh huh.
then yes, I would let it pick up the gun and shoot it and shoot the intruder,
Uh huh.
and I would not be liable for the death of that intruder.
Of course not. That's self defense.
Right. Okay. So to answer the question, yeah, my robot um, would have the ability to pick up a gun and kill.
Your robot or just robots in general should have that capability.
Your robot, just like how a
So you don't think robots in general should be able to do it?
um
You think it's up to the
the
owner of
owner,
the robot to decide? So as an
not
engineer, you would put
not
that in, let the owner decide.
not yes, for the owner to decide. It's almost like branding. It's almost like, you know how for Pixel phones, for all phones, Samsung, iPhone, there is a finger um, unlock and lock
Uh
feature
huh.
on your phones. It's something similar to that where it facial recognition. This is your owner. You protect your owner, whereas a different robot, someone else's robot, tries to protect someone else, not its owner. Facial recognize is not recognized, so it does nothing. Um,
So
I think it's important to, I guess, to have that, because otherwise, guys, what's to say one robot protecting someone else, not its owner, protecting a human that's not his owner, and I guess evaluating the situation and deciding that I think this person is in trouble. Should I meddle into their affairs, or should I meddle into their dispute? And as end result, someone may die from it.
I
Think
mean,
of
that's sort of like the scenario that I'm kind of getting at is, you know, whether or not we should be programming that capability inside the AI or not. And I guess in your case, you're saying in general, yes, that we should be programming the capability inside, and whether or not we,
not for a gun, but killing, yes. In a defense,
and
right?
um, whether or not the robot does it is on the discretion of its owner,
Yeah,
and that it would only sort of use like lethal force or action to protect its owner.
yes. And if a gun is needed to make that happen, then by all means, I guess, shoot.
You would trust that the engineer is able to create a sophisticated enough AI to make that judgment, make that determination of whether or not to use like lethal force or whatever.
Yes, I would have to. This is assuming that these. Are we still assuming that these robots are what we discussed last week?
Yeah.
So
You
if
know, so they're
right,
highly intelligent.
highly
You know,
intelligent, right?
they're
Um,
humanoid and they're a common commodity.
In that case, it's not really in their program. They'll be rewriting it their own code. They'll be, I guess,
No, no, this will be kind of
a
like
default.
fresh from the factory. Like it's something that's part of them. Kind of like how
Oh,
your
it's like a
clock is part of
auto.
your phone. Like it's something
It's like a
that
default
is
setting.
inside their programming.
I would say yeah.
You still say yes.
I would say yes.
Okay. So I guess sort of sort of on the same similar vein, do you think we should have robot cops? Not like RoboCop.
RoboCop.
Not RoboCop. He's more of a cyborg, but police
Terminator.
officers who are robots.
What did they do?
You
They
know,
don't eat donuts.
no, no,
Oh,
no. It's so stereotypical. No, like these are actual robots, like a personal robot, or
got
whatever.
it.
But except they have a badge
It's
and
like
they are cops.
it's like a cop's partner.
Not necessarily. Like they're like independent cops. Cops that drive around, do their rounds, or whatever. First responders or something like that. Like, do you
Yeah.
think we should have robot cops?
Oh, I think yes, cause yes, I think they're a lot more efficient. They can get to point A, point B. I think relatively faster. I assume. I mean, they can
Hmm.
assess situations a lot better. So I assume. Uh, yeah, I don't see why not.
I mean, in that case, again, we have to ask the question, because there might be certain scenarios where like lethal force may or may not be necessary. I know, like nowadays in like the media, there's a lot of sort of criticism on police who are kind of quick to using lethal force, especially when it comes to unarmed black men.
Right, right.
Um,
See. I think going back to the scenario or about my personalized robot killing the intruder or not.
right.
Maybe not killing. Maybe it should default. 'Cause killing's a little too extreme. It should default to restraining. Whether or not I pick up the gun or not doesn't matter. I think that's a terrible way of looking at it. It wouldn't pick up the gun. It wouldn't kill. That's what I'm trying to say here. Uh, like a robot cop or a personalized robot, they should all have the default setting of restraining um, the owner's threat as opposed to killing. Um,
Oh, okay. So essentially, you would say that priority is the first thing isn't to go kill,
no, it's
but
not.
if let's say um, you're saying like worst case scenario, kill.
Not even. There's no killing. It shouldn't be no killing
Wait,
involved because
so the previous scenario with the intruder, you're saying now that you would not let the robot kill your intruder.
right. Yeah, I take back my word on that because we're talking about if we're talking about killing is too big of an extreme. I think restraining is probably the better way of looking at it.
No,
Um,
so going back to that same scenario where the only way to save
there
its
is no
owner and its
only.
family is to pull the trigger. You
I
would you or would you not
you see
let that?
this example is not. uh, it's not. It's not. You can protect your family without pulling a trigger. Like I'm all about guns too and all, but as a highly intelligent, capable robot, you don't need a gun to kill someone. Okay.
No, because what I'm saying is in that scenario, the robot is like is on the other side of the room, so there's no way for it to physically
Right,
immobilize the
right,
intruder.
right. What's the like? It's like what's the intruder's motive to kill a family?
He could be a
I'm
psychopath. For all we care.
right, it's so be it at that point because it's no role no like no one would be buying killer robots.
Oh,
I
I'm
think
not saying you're buying a killer robot.
no, I'm
I'm
saying
saying like
having like just having a default setting with the capability of killing. I think that just has a bad rep to it. Um, like you're manufacturing robots that have the ability to kill.
uh
I don't think that I don't think that'll fly.
you're
Um,
saying that like that will set like a bad precedent.
yeah, exactly. Oh,
So
so going back to that scenario, let's say intruder comes in, psychopathic intruder comes in, points a gun in my head. My personalized robot is across the room, and what's stopping him from just picking up the gun during that however many seconds he needs to open the drawer, pick up the gun, point at the intruder, and shoot? What's stopping the intruder from pulling the trigger on me during the time he's assembling his shot to the
no,
intruder?
no. You're getting
Like,
you're throwing too many like other questions. I'm just saying like this. I'm saying this is the scenario. This is you're trying to deflect away from like the scenario. I'm saying like this is a scenario. Like bad guy point gun at you. Your robot can kill him before intruder kills you. Would you let him? Would you let the robot do it? Like, would you let the robot kill that person to save you?
I must say, like this question is too one dimensional. It's because you also asked me to look at it in a realistic, in real terms, in real
Yeah,
life.
no. That's exactly why I'm asking this question is because a robot doesn't.
Real right, but realistically speaking, robots will not be programmed with killer functions.
No, no, I know that.
So it's not
No.
gonna
No. What
happen.
I'm asking you is if you, as an engineer, would program that capability
Like if let's say for
to protect,
example, right, look,
protect.
let's say for example, I bought this robot and manufacturing like right fresh off the box, it's not it doesn't have the capability to kill. Its only default program is to restrain. But since I'm a engineer, I went in there and reprogrammed it a little bit where it does kill to protect. In that scenario, then yes, I will trust my AI to pull the
So
trigger.
you wouldn't trust like straight off the factory.
No, that's what I'm saying. If I'm being realistic here, no company out there would design a robot with killing functions or default functions to kill.
Okay.
It's not gonna happen.
Well, you don't
Um,
know that.
right, right. But I'm just saying, like
No, because I'm asking you, like, as you as the engineer designing the robot, like, would you put that capability in?
if I was just a employee for a company just doing my job, then yes. If if I bought the robot and brought it home and I tinkered it a bit, then also yes, I would trust it.
Okay, so you're saying that you would be comfortable
If I tinkered it,
having that capability to kill as a means to protect.
yes. If I were to be the one tinkering it, if
Okay,
you get what I mean?
so you're saying the owner of the robot is able to make that decision, not the actual manufacturers.
Yes, but the manufacturers, like I said, it'll default to just restraining. And even if, let's say, for example, it's to kill also, it comes fresh off the box, manufacturer, kill to protect. I, as an engineer, will still go in there and check it out myself, assuming that I'm a really a proficient engineer. So at
Okay,
least I would have no remorse in my decision, and I would completely give my 100% trust in my AI.
okay.
Then
I mean, let's put you as the person in that same scenario, where you say like your family is at gunpoint, and the only way for you to save your family is to shoot the intruder. Would you do it?
My AI is nowhere to be seen,
No, no,
and
no, no, no. This is all human. Like this is no
just
AI.
human. Okay, just
Like
human
would you
scenario.
do that
Do I know if the intruder is a psychopath or just a random person? I don't know.
for the sake of this scenario where you see a guy with like a shotgun, at your family gunpoint,
Right.
and you have a gun and you have the option to kill him to save your family. Would you do it?
So I don't know he's a psychopath.
Well,
I can assume that.
that's irrelevant though.
I don't know. I will shoot him.
Okay.
No questions asked.
Um, okay.
You're in
Because
my you're
I
you're in
think
my
I
house. You're in my house, and you're threatening my family. I'm shooting you.
uh no, yeah, because I believe that um that you should program your AI based on what you would do in real life. So I think that I don't think that any AI should be programmed in a way that is different from what
The owner.
you no not necessarily, but this kind of tricky, but like what kind of
The intruder.
society deems as acceptable, you know?
But no, that's still kind of in the gray because society it
No, no,
changes over
exactly,
time.
because as the manufacturer of the robot, you have to set the default, right? And the default would likely have to come from what the majority of society deems to be acceptable. And I do understand that afterwards, people will be able to decide whether or not to enable or disable certain functionalities. But overall, you still need that default. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right, that default doesn't have to be killing. It's it's gonna be restraining.
No, 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 no. Back up a bit. I'm just saying, like the programmer and the manufacturer, they still need to sort of set the baseline
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
for what the robot would do
Your
in
scenario.
different scenarios. And of course, they would do their best not to kill anyone, but that baseline still has to come from what society deems as acceptable.
Right,
You know,
right, right, right.
like
But it's not
if the
it's not
majority
that
of people say that no, the robot should not do it, then
it doesn't do
it
it.
shouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
But I also, yeah, it is a very very kind of,
Yeah, society changes, and it's yeah it's in the gray area at this point because
yeah.
there's some people that
And all I'm saying is that I personally believe that the programmer should not program, or they should program it where it sort of takes its cues from what society deems as acceptable. And I think that's the most sort of fair way to program it.
not that's
It's not
that's a
it's not the best. I'm saying it's
wait
the most fair.
it's
It's not the best case scenario. It's just the most fair.
I
Do you know what
would
I'm saying?
I would even say that although your solution is really good, it's fair. I would say a better scenario, a better solution would be, um, since it's since the AI is highly intelligent, it records, it learns and adapts over time, and it may or may not. I mean, it may even have the feature and function to kind of mimic the owner. Like let's say for example me, I'm its owner, and over time it kind of gets an idea of how I behave and and I guess even I guess calculate my decision when it comes to morality, whether or not how I take care of little kids, how I take care of dogs, how I take care of intruders, how I mistreat or treat other people. If they calculate all that in their algorithm to figure out, I guess, my way of thinking and thought process, I think that's one way of how an AI can behave if
I,
a
I,
threat
I
were
mean,
to be presented.
like that's a very, again, it's a very kind of slippery slope because I know you're a decent person, but what if there's a not so decent person out there where the AI mimics that person? Like, what if it's a abusive person that the AI is mimicking? Like that's a very real possibility. So I
If that's
disagree with you that the AI should mimic what its owner is doing because that's not necessarily what is the most correct way.
it may not
Uh,
be the correct way, but it's probably the most. It's probably, I would say, kind of like the only best, not only but like a good way. I'm not condoning, you know, um, the killing like robots killing, but and I know there's a lot of bad people out there, but it's if that owner is a terrible person, I think he has every right to own a robot like himself.
okay, so,
If
so
you're
this
if
this this
you're
is where I
if
disagree with you. I think that the robot's AI should default to whatever society deems as acceptable behavior, and whether regardless, I think that's just the most fair
that's
way
that's that's still a
to do it.
that's still like maybe like a 55-45 or 60-40.
No,
um
because hear me out because if you have an AI that adapts to whatever the owner's perception of what's right and wrong is that you get into this weird sort of legal and gray area when it comes to like morality of AI and robots, and it just really overcomplicates things because if you just have it so that it defaults to um, a default morality setting that is kind of generally accepted by everyone, then you just have a much more level field when it comes to the robot deciding on what it should do. Because, you'll have different scenarios in your case where a robot will act differently based on it based on what it's learned from its owner or whatever. And to me, I feel like that's kind of I don't think that the
so
AI should be able to do that.
you're yeah I okay. I mean that's what you think, and that's completely fine. But let's say the scenario is still the same. Majority like society, if same scenario, psychopath, family at gunpoint, your AI has the option to pick up the gun and kill the intruder. Let's say society, like majority of the society is against killing, against picking up the gun and
Hmm.
saving your family, essentially. So you're okay with that? So you're okay with um,
With the robot not killing the
not
intruder.
killing the intruder and your family end up dying?
I Yes, I would be. I personally wouldn't blame the robot for not saving my family.
No, it's you can't really blame it or not. It's programmed to it's default program for that.
Yeah, yeah. To
And
me, like if I believe if the society believes that it's generally unacceptable for the
okay,
robot to kill it, then I would be content with it not killing the intruder to save my family.
okay, all
All right.
right.
Yeah, that's woo. Yeah.
Killer robots.
Yeah,
Hashtag killer robots.
but that's all I have for this discussion. It was a pretty heavy hitter, I would say. No, thanks so much for coming on. Do you have anything you want to add?
Uh,
Any last comments?
any last comments? No.
All right.
Good. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
No, no. Thanks for coming on. Glad you're not a psychopath.
Damn it.
All
I'll try
right.
again next time.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been your moment of Zen.
Oh, until next time, take care and stay fresh. See ya.
All right. Boom.
Let's go.
All right.